Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 576 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Anna Echeveste. And if you want to hear how she created a course and a movement about living from the inside out, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today it's international, and we have Dr. Anna Echeveste coming on, and I'm really excited to have her onto the show today. She's over in northern Spain, and I asked her before the whole thing happened, like, what could we accomplish today? So I'll share those notes with you, what she would like to accomplish on today's episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. This is episode 576. Before we jump into her topics, I'll let you know our big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, first things first is protecting freedom of speech. I think that we can't ever take that for granted. And being an international voice for chiropractic, we have to talk very specific about what chiropractic is or what it isn't. So freedom of speech is very important. Medical freedom, we all benefit from that. Not just people in America, not just people in Spain, but everywhere. Everyone benefits from medical freedom. So our show protects that and keeps integrity within chiropractic for those purposes. Family health freedom. Medical freedom and family health freedom, they're not the same thing, quite similar, but have the right to choose sovereignty over your choices for your family, your kids, your loved ones, your elders, have sovereignty. Medical freedom is something very important that is another reason why our show, I believe, gets so popular. It's because people say, wow, you guys believe in something that I've never heard about. And you guys are talking about things I've never really focused on. So we'll get a bit more philosophical in the intro. We do protect BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust. If you do not know what that means, go and find out what BJ Palmer's last words were. Find your favorite search engine and find it out. Just stop the interview right now. Go find out BJ Palmer's last words, the Sacred Trust of Chiropractic. You're going to learn more about chiropractic than you previously did, I guarantee you. And then we do support subluxation-based chiropractic. There's been venues that I spoke to that said, hey, there's 3 things you can't say when you talk to our students: subluxation, innate intelligence, universal intelligence. So I said, great. Now that you guys brought me here to speak at your university, the first things that I'll tell you about are subluxation, innate intelligence, and universal intelligence. So we do believe that when man or woman, the physical, is adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. Dr. Anna, welcome to Chiro Hustle.
Thank you very much. Privilege.
Yeah, there's a lot that I pack into that first 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of it's necessary. You know, when you're in agreement with people, you see a lot of head nodding. And I think that we say things on such a pace that it needs to be said, because if people only listen to the first 2 minutes, then they're going to understand chiropractic from a perspective, a journalistic perspective, and a freedom of speech perspective, and a what are we doing to take care of our families perspective. And then we get philosophical and they're like, whoa, what more is there about this chiropractic? What is a subluxation? So we just spark a lot of interesting topics for people to jump into. And one of the things I love most about what we do is our guest interviews. And I think the most impactful thing I've learned over 6 years is the story. Tell the story, tell the story, tell the story. So your story, medical school, decided chiropractic was the way. Let's tell everybody, friends, family, colleagues, people that might listen to this in 10 years, how you got to the point of becoming a chiropractor.
Well, before, if I may, you talked about freedom. Freedom does not come without individual responsibility, and this is huge. Thank you for talking about freedom, because I think chiropractic is about individual responsibility as well, this whole inside out paradigm. So this is going to be fantastic. This 35, 40 minutes or whatever it is going to be amazing. So also talking about individual responsibility, I went into medical school. My dad was a medical doctor, and I always wanted to help people. So I never really thought about any other thing than being a medical doctor, wanting to help people. And in my fourth year doing rounds, I had actually a crazy experience. I didn't know anything about vitalism or anything like that, but we were visiting the really sick people at the hospital after doing a thoracic surgery, actually. And we went into a room. There was a guy, very sick, terminal cancer, and he had the biggest smile ever. And he looked at the surgeon. I was just a student, and he looked at him as like, "Doctor, I'm feeling great today." And the very famous big ego thoracic surgeon looked at him as like, "That's great, but you're dying anyway." And there was something that crushed my heart inside. It just turned around. I went home, sat my dad and my mom. I looked at them as like, if this is what being a medical doctor is like, this is not for me. I actually considered either ear doctor or family practice in the middle of a small town. My dad was a very humanistic and vitalistic medical doctor, cardiologist, and he had warned me and my brother, who's a radiologist, don't go into medicine, is losing the ideals of medicine. So I quit. It was not for me. And my grandfather was going to a chiropractor with my dad laughing at him for 15 years. I don't know if it's called karma or not, but and it's like he gives health talks. Why don't you go to one of them? So I went to one of the health talks, and it rationally, intellectually, it made sense, nervous system, spine. And I ended up at Live University. I was going to go to Palmer, and then the whole thing with Live University happened, and it was life was building up again, and I ended up at Live, Georgia and Iowa. It was made, I'm from Spain. It made no difference to me. So I was like, okay, I'll go to Live. I was not adjusted. And my first adjustment was my first quarter, the fourth week, I think, in the commons in the apartments by an eighth quarter student. And she looked at me as like, how are you in chiropractic school without getting adjusted? And my response was, well, I could have been a surgeon without any surgery at all. Like that was my paradigm. I had no clue what it was. But from day one, from that induction welcoming session, I felt home. And I fell in love. Well, I remember that first adjustment, how I woke up the next morning, by the way. But the philosophy got me from day one. I had been struggling with epilepsy since I was 14 years old. And I grew up with, you cannot do this, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly I started hearing about not moving away from something, but moving towards something better. That I didn't know it was called salutogenic model, but I started hearing about potential, that I could do things, limitations of matter, limitations of time, but I could do things that, wow. And it changed me completely, the way I lived my life and the way I saw myself. And I fell in love.
18 years later, chiropractic love story. I love it. First adjustment, chiropractic college. Yeah, I love the stoic reality. Like, I can be a chiropractor. I don't have to be adjusted first. But then you realize that like the stoic reality is, wow, I missed out on, having my lights turned on because I've lived in this dim existence. And I think that when people come to that terms, like their ego once again comes involved, and they're like, I don't need that until today. And now I want a lifetime of that. So it's the old things. We don't know what we don't know. And when we change, everything changes around us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the paradigm shift of a lot of people that are in need of clarity and direction. And obviously we all drive through every barricade of life that we can. And we're like, oh, don't believe what dad said. Oh, don't believe what, the market's telling nope, don't believe any of that stuff. We're just going to keep driving right through the barricades of life. And then we realize that we have to make our own decisions and become accountable for our own path. And then, we get to talk about closing this gap. I know there's a couple topics that you want to touch on today, is closing the gap of chiropractic inside out to tell the truth and the essence of practice. And what is inside out? Because I think a lot of times people, they get to this point of chiropractic, they are great adjusters, they believe in the philosophy, and then somehow they become everything but a chiropractor.
Yeah. We all want to build big practices. I mean, there's many reasons for that. There's like a mission that we all have. We want to serve people. There's a business. We want to make money, and there's ego involved. I want to have bigger practice than, like, whatever reason is, we want to attract people. And if I had to give advice to anyone, it's just close the gap. Whatever your essence is, whatever you see, however you see chiropractic, what is chiropractic for you? Share that story. And that takes a lot of courage. For example, for me, I've been in practice 15 years. And since day one, when I started understanding chiropractic as a facilitator of my innate driving my body, my soul, the way I perceive the world, the way I respond to what happens to me emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, day one, I didn't know how to share that in practice. And then you talk about the spine, and then you talk about, of course, hernia here and there, and neck pain. And then my job has been to become a better communicator, closing that gap of how I see chiropractic and how I live chiropractic in my life, and telling them the truth. Yes, you have back pain. Yes, you have a hernia or allergies, or you have a depression. I don't care what it is. I understand people don't come to me normally with, I want to express all my innate, and tell them what I do as a facilitator. I remove subluxations so that you can express all you are. And I have no clue. Literally, that's what I tell them. I have no clue what's going to happen when you express all that you are. Am I going to heal? I don't know. And my conversion is like more than 99% from first visit to report findings to starting care. And I have really high retention. This is, and I don't think it's because I do better than any other one. It's because it's my truth. I close the gap between how I see chiropractic and what I tell them.
It opens up a lot of ideas for me hearing you explain this. First things first, you being a coach, why do you think some practitioners make it and some practitioners don't?
Probably this main reason. I see a lot of people trying to, like, copying the tactics, which are needed. We need the tools to get better at communicating with the first visit. We need the technique. We need to be good adjusters. If you don't understand the why you're doing things, the how, it's important, but it's not that important. So what we really need to work on is why we're doing what we're doing. And if you have a mechanistic approach to the practice that. But if you really in your life think that chiropractic is holism, vitalism, humanism, share that. Because if not, there is an incongruency between how you live it and how you're sharing it. And that's not going to work.
One of my favorite chiropractors of all time, most people will never know who he is. I've never interviewed him. His name's Patrick Smith. And he did a day 1, day 2 process that I got a chance to see. He was in my first movie, Chiropractic, the documentary, and really touched me because when he did his patient orientation with somebody, he would tell them, my name's Dr. Patrick and you are, and I'm going to be your chiropractor for the rest of your life until one of us blows up. And, it's humor, but it's also real. And I think you have to go back to the essence once again of what your message is and how you want to connect with that person. And then it's retaining and having good retention, like you said. Chiropractic is a relationship bond. It's a very intimate profession. It's the essence of Napoleon Hill, become known, liked, and trusted. But I think in chiropractic, we have to go a different level. We have to become known, loved, and trusted. And
Ooh.
like is something very transactional. When you love the experience, that's when you become the referral source.
Mhm.
That's when you start to say, wow, my kids are looking for an opportunity to go to university. Maybe they should be chiropractors.
Mhm.
And I don't know whoever junked up chiropractic with these two ideologies of vitalistic and mechanistic, but can't we like elevate and move beyond such a small way of thinking of one or the other?
For me, it's about congruency with a person. And there's a beautiful story. I was about to share it maybe later, but this is not about changing, for me, changing the profession or changing the philosophy. If we want to change either the profession, the world, or humanity, the only thing that's going to work, I don't know if you do you know the story of the man that tried to change the world?
Let's share it with them because I probably need a refresher too.
Basically, it's like a guy
And
that,
I think it's a David Bowie song, "The Man That Sold the World."
well, basically, this guy that looks at, I mean, it could happen to any of us. You look at society, it's like, oh my God, everything is a disaster. So I'm going to try to change this, and that. He was so frustrated because there was nothing changing. And then he decided to go a little bit smaller. So then he tried to change his family and his community, and nothing changed. And at the end, he said, you know what? I'm going to look within, and I'm going to try to change myself. And that worked. So basically, that's the whole inside out thing. And I'm going to start with myself. For me, chiropractic is about an inside out paradigm. So it has to start with me. But I would never judge you if you think that chiropractic should be this or that. I'm not even going. I'm not even going to waste my time. But you probably have a role in this life. Do your thing. Don't try to change me. And if you have really good in podcast or marketing, shine. Do your thing. I'm good at what I do. I'll do my part. And if everybody focuses on not trying to be better than the other person, just shining at their role, will do much, much better, I think.
Well, what we will win a chiropractic championship.
No kidding. No kidding.
um, so people, I hear this a lot, and I think everybody has a different resonance with it. But above, down, inside out, it's ADIO. It's
Mhm.
some of the most fundamental chiropractic slogan philosophy out there. What does that mean to you?
Above, down, it's universal intelligence. I mean, it comes from what is like, some people would say it's God. For me, it goes beyond. I do believe in God on that, all there is. But for me, it's something different because you don't have to believe in God to believe in universal intelligence. But it comes down to us and it expresses through us. Boom.
And then inside out, we get a chance to cultivate the power of being clear with our nervous system.
Yes, because it's something that doesn't come from the outside. And I see this a lot. And I don't mean this in a judgmental way. I think there is a lack of clarity because I've been there. I see this a lot with recommendations, for example. When we talk about exercise or nutrition or how to sleep better or ergonomics in chiropractic, for example, we I think it's great information because we want to help people take better care of themselves, but we're taking all the power from the wisdom of innate. And you can teach people the importance of vitamin D from an outside in natural approach or from inside out. I can tell you, you know how you have to take vitamin D. It's important because it's vital for your immune system, for blah, blah, blah. Or I can tell you, you know that your body takes the sun and is able to synthesize from the fat that you eat or the fat that you have is able to synthesize vitamin D to optimize the function of your bones and your, always teach wisdom of the body. And sometimes you don't have enough. Maybe you can take a little bit, but always teach that inside out approach of how smart is your body. The same with exercise or any other pill. Is the pill going to do that, or is the pill going to optimize what you already have inside? And that's the key, because at the end of the day, if you tell them how smart they are, they're going to want to take care of themselves forever. That's such a fine line between that inside out and outside in natural approach. Am I doing something to stimulate, inhibit, blah, blah, blah? Or am I going to facilitate function in the body? That's like the typical sentence. Let your medicine, no, let your food be your medicine. Is it in English? Good translation?
Yes, yes, yes.
Food can help the body, the wisdom of the body, work better, or it can actually put more toxins, so the body has to waste more energy detoxifying. But body has the medicine already inside by the chemistry, Without innate, nothing works.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle. Well, I've heard this said before, and I'm going to make a couple, additions to what you just shared. Is it's not the seed, it's the soil. And some of the quickest biohack or human performance exercise that somebody could ever do, like you want to get the vitamin D to start producing from the fat cells in the body through the sun. Well, 8 minutes every morning, first sunlight, go sit down and touch your feet to the earth and let your upper torso be exposed to the sun and do 8 minutes of breath work. And that will be the fastest way that you can get chemistry to start organizing properly in your body. And then get your nervous system checked by a chiropractor. Make sure that there's no misalignments or subluxations in the spine. Correct those. And now the body is self-healing, self-regulating organism. And the body, the power that made the body heals the body. And then the philosophy actually stands true.
That's the key. I would go one step farther, if I may. It's not even the seed or the soil. It's the life that's in the seed. And I did that game with my niece. She was 12 at the time. What's the difference between the bean and the little stone that we had when we planted it? What makes the bean grow? And she was like, the water. And I was like, oh, the stone is not growing. It's like, the soil. I'm like, the stone is not growing. I was like, at the end, she was 12. I was like, the seed is alive, the bean is alive. You're like, that's the difference. Because a dead body will never take that vitamin. You can put a dead body by the sun, obviously cannot do breath work. Nothing happens. The main difference is that the presence of the innate intelligence. And we keep forgetting that.
Life force. That's it. So we've been talking a lot about health and personal responsibility and ways to access better health through chiropractic and the big idea of chiropractic, which I think we've done a really beautiful job of explaining from my perspective and your perspective. Now let's talk a little bit more about you, like the practitioner. What are you doing for your health and your family's health? Because I think that would be a great takeaway for people too. Like, okay, you believe in this. What do you do now?
I think the main thing for me is focus on the 5 pillars that I have. Actually, I created an acronym for the 5 pillars one day, random, when I was teaching at the BCC, the Barcelona College. It comes up as the word health in Spanish, salud. So it's nervous system, soul, food, exercise, and rest. And I think the key is, to be gentle with ourselves. I think nobody is great with the 5 pillars. So this is like very DeMartini like. I think we all have natural, organic, we're drawn to some of the pillars. And for me, meditating, Zen, I do work with a Zen master, and connection with my family, and with my partner and with my friends is very easy. And intellectual, I love learning, so I'm always learning and reading and taking courses, etc. That those are my easiest pillars. So the other ones, I've just tried to make my life much easier. So I do have a gym partner, or like somebody that organizes my food or something like that. So we know the information. So I try to focus always, and I try to understand why I don't do the other things that I should do. So like understanding the emotions or the mind of people, which has helped me a lot in practice, understand why people don't do what they should do. And I try to know myself. So a lot of personal development, a lot.
Well, there's a lot, like you said, closing the gap. There's a lot that goes into closing the gap with running a successful chiropractic center, but there's a lot that goes into closing the gap with who we are and how much congruency do we bring to that baseline of closing the next gap. So I think it is smart. You have to know that, like, as you get on a train, there's different stops, and that if you get at the wrong stop, that's a mistake, and you have to get back on to get to where you're going next. So a lot of times that's emotional. We get off at the wrong stop a lot with our emotions. We get off at the wrong stop a lot of times with our mindset. We get off at the wrong stop so many times with our health and what we eat and how we take care of ourselves and our accountability. So I think that people just need to stay, like you said, congruent, and they have to have a consistent routine. I found that the highest level producing chiropractors I've ever met have a high functioning morning routine. And, they have a good hierarchy of God, chiropractic, family. And somewhere in that order, they learn what's most important through the journey of that path. And then if they stay more in the philosophical stance of chiropractic, they stay more onto a chiropractic practice rather than a medical center. So I think that people really have to be clear, once again, back to what you said, clear on what they want, and then what they want their life to be like, and then what they want their practice life to be like, because ultimately that becomes you, the seed.
Yeah. My only concern with this, and I've changed through years, I went very radical, and this is me. That's why personal development is important for me, because I've discovered my patterns, and I went through intermittent fasting. I spent, probably because of the epilepsy, I tried to remove all the medication at some point, and keto for 2 years straight. And like, I went very radical in certain areas, and it didn't work emotionally. And I think that was probably because for me, it was outside in approach. Like somebody told me it was the right thing to do, and I was not doing what I thought it was best at the time. And when I went into doing what I thought it was best for me, accepting that nobody does anything perfect, I started working through a lifestyle that was more congruent and more at peace. And big change.
Well, there has to be a shift in satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we go on a weight loss journey and we're like, we're going to go and lose 20 pounds, and our life is miserable through 90 days to 120 days, and we don't get any satisfaction, we're going to go back to comfort. And that's a hard thing to correct with our behaviors over time, to continuously do something for 2 years and it really doesn't satisfy us.
No, and you're going to feel like shit about yourself. And that's not love. You know what I mean? It's like there's got to be that balance. Where are you coming from when you choose certain things?
Once again, it's like going into a practice model and copying someone else because it worked for them. We have to find our own path and our own journey. And that's authenticity to you, the doctor, to your practice, to your family. And I think that that's the big quest that a lot of people are on, this hero's journey of life. Like, how do I go back home and be comfortable with myself?
And there is a lot of stuff, of this stuff going on in this profession, probably in other professions, but I'm not part of other professions, that comparison game within numbers or social media. Oh, that guy looks like has everything that what I want. You know what? Stop looking outside and just live congruent. And at the same time, innate knows how to heal a wound. Innate knows what's better for you, as long as you're willing to do the work. And that takes us back to that individual responsibility. Freedom comes from the work of doing what needs to be done in every single minute. With it's not always an easy choice. Well, normally it's not, but it does take a lot of work. Yeah.
And the backside of that is the people that I've met through doing 1,200 interviews. The ones that really like to talk about numbers are the ones that are seeing 200, 150, 300 people a week. The ones that are seeing 100 or less, they're more shy, they're more modest, they're more unsure of themselves. And it's okay to be wherever you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to ask for help. I think that that's a big part of this too, is once somebody becomes a doctor, there's a lot on their shoulders. And it's okay that if you're seeing 15 patients a week, to ask for help. It's okay if you're seeing 35 patients a day to ask for help. It's okay if you're seeing 400 a week to ask for help. I think that that's a big part of this profession too, is the incongruency of just asking somebody for support and thinking you have to do it all by yourself, because it's a lonely world out there when you don't have a community. And that's what I love most about chiropractic, is chiropractors build community.
Mm-hmm.
They build network within the people, and then they become a referral based chiropractor, and they don't have to go out and always, hunt every marketing strategy down to get new patients.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, like I was saying to you earlier, you've been a chiropractor 15 years. It takes 10 years to become a legend. The quantification of 10,000 hours becomes a professional. But I think anybody underneath that has to give themselves a little grace to say, look, I'm still growing as a practitioner. I'm not perfect. But if I continuously do these things for myself the right way, and I have great mentors, like you mentioned, DeMartini earlier, or Zen Master, if you have good influence and good network and good encouragement, who knows what's possible? But it's not about your numbers.
No. Do you know why it's not about the numbers? And I'm actually, I'll open my heart even more. I'm going through this right now. I'm at the moment, I haven't decided yet, because I think life will decide for me. Like, I don't know how to rationally make this decision, but I'm at my top of what I'm seeing my numbers in 2 days. And I don't know if this is what I want, because I'm loving the coaching. Even the money wise is not the same thing, because I'm seeing high volume with high PVA, etc. But I'm loving the coaching, and I'm starting a third project that I have no clue what's taking me, which is I just wrote a book in Spanish. It's called Living from the Inside Out. It's chiropractic principles plus all that I've learned after 20 years of living from the inside out. It's chiropractic universal laws. I was talking to David Sirio the other day in an interview made in Spanish. Chiropractic principles and all the things that I've learned about coherence and personal development, Buddhism, all that kind of stuff. And I wrote a book in Spanish. Sorry, if anybody speaks Spanish, they can ask me for the link. And people are loving it. My patients are like, wow, this book is great. It's going to help with my retention, of course. But that project might open my life, my career to another path. And I might have to cut my adjusting hours. If I compare to another guy that's seeing the 400 in 4 days, and I might stay with 200 in a day, am I losing? Why am I comparing myself to the other guy? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. I'm following my path, which I have no clue where I'm taking. This is about surrendering to something, to that universal intelligence. I'm just expressing. This is a second principle, right? This is about expressing universal intelligence in matter. In universal intelligence in Anna has nothing to do with Jim. This is about being true to the principles. This is insane.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of questions I have pre-prepared for us to speak about today. I know we're coming up on the edge of our time together today, but is there anything that was on the questionnaire that you hoped I would have asked you today that I didn't?
I would love to share the miracle story.
Sure. Let's do that, because I know a lot of people wait to the end of our episodes to hear these miracle stories, and they're really powerful. Most of the times I get people to cry.
Well, I don't know if people are going to cry. They're probably going to be like, was that a miracle story? Because I do have the typical miracle stories. But my reflection for the people today that I really want to share is that thanks to the question, I had an aha moment. The reason I went into chiropractic was that, well, I'm sorry, you're going to die anyway. That who is anybody to tell anybody that they're going to die? How do you know? That medical doctor telling the patients, like, God is way smarter. Maybe statistically, they know. But sometimes I think that we know it's like, oh, they're going to heal. Maybe it's their time to die. And I had a 7-month-old baby. That was like 7 years ago. No, more, 8 or 9. 7-month-old baby. The parents come through a referral. We met on a Sunday in my practice. They're desperate. The little baby has a brainstem tumor, inoperable. And it's like, they don't even want to do chemo. Like, he's dying. The mom is a nurse. It's like, we don't know what to do. I don't know what you do, but I've heard about you. And what can you do? And it's like, well, I do adjust. I can go. I had to pretend to be the aunt because ICU, it's only for 2 adults. So for a month, I go and check him, just the fossa reading for the atlas every single day. And I adjust when it's needed. The first day, the baby hadn't slept for like 20 hours and he was on medication for sleep, right? And I go and I adjust the atlas. The mom is like, are you done? It took us like 45 minutes. It's like, nobody's looking. It's looking. What are you like? Pretend like nothing is happening. After 45 minutes, I check the fossa. It's high. So I adjust in 2 minutes. And the mom is like, are you done? I was like, I'm done. I left. 3 hours later, it's like he took a nap, a 3-hour nap for the first time. So that baby, that tumor went away for 3 years. We kept adjusting him. Of course, I told the parents, if I were you, I would get adjusted. You need to be connected through all this because you're going to suffer like shit. I don't know if you can say this in an American podcast. And the cancer came back. Another one, actually. I kept adjusting them. And at some point, the parents decide it's over. One night, I decided to message them. It's like, how are you guys doing? It's like, Anna, can you come to the hospital? We have to decide. We have decided to sedate him tonight. And we want to be adjusted. And we want you to adjust him so that he goes through transition as connected as possible. And I'm getting goosebumps. And we want to be connected as well. For me, that was the biggest lesson I've gotten about surrendering to what is, to that universal intelligence. The reason, that's when I got my aha moment after you asked me that, Jim. I left medical school because I didn't want to be as smart. I didn't want to have an ego to decide who lives, who dies. You're going to heal I don't know, because I do believe there is something bigger. But who am I to say you're going to heal as well? I don't know. But they went like I facilitated just through adjusting their innate to be at peace with that. And I had the same experience with my father. He died 7 years ago from pancreatic cancer. I was like, Dad, we can do things out there. There are fantastic people out there doing outside in natural, amazing. It's like, Anna, I'm at peace. I don't want to do anything. I'm ready. For 2 months, I adjusted him. It's like, adjust me so that I can go at peace. And we talked about universal principles, about innate, how he was at peace. He was fine, at peace, and verbal till the day before. Surrendering to death. And he was like, death is also part of life, and I'm ready. That was for me, letting go. No ego, just letting be, surrendering to that something bigger.
Sometimes it's a stranger, sometimes it's the most important person in our life.
There are 3 little girls after that boy that wouldn't be here. This is crazy to say. There are 3 little girls after that boy. I adjusted 5 of them still. They might have had other kids, but these little girls wouldn't be here if that older brother hadn't gone.
Well, there's so much truth and compassion in today's episode. You're 576 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. If people wanted to reach out to you and maybe get the book or book you for their show, where should we send people to?
My Instagram account, Chiropractica /Echeveste.
Great. So head over to Instagram, connect to Dr. Anna, and see about getting her more exposure for Living from the Inside Out book. And really appreciate you being our guest today. I feel like there was a magic connection there for telling the story of chiropractic. And if there's people out there that are listening that found some value in this, just share the story. That's how I started out working in this chiropractic profession. I heard a guy on stage telling people to share the story, and it almost makes me cry. But he said, tell the story, tell the story, tell the story, like a million times during his talk. And I was like, you know what? I'll go do that. So he said to go tell the story. So we've been doing that with Chiro Hustle, and this is another chiropractic story. And Dr. Anna, have a great night over in Spain. And I close out by telling everybody you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode, and bye for now.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.